The parents and children of victims of the contaminated blood scandal should be entitled to compensation. That is the view of the chairman of the inquiry, who said their loss had not been recognised. Thousands of people were infected with HIV and hepatitis by contaminated blood between 1970 and 1991. The scandal has been described as the worst treatment disaster in the history of the NHS. Well, our health correspondent, Martin Stew, is at the inquiry. Martin, what will this mean for the families of those victims?
Well, they're certainly seeing it as a big step on their very long journey to justice. As you mentioned, around 30,000 people were infected and either contracted HIV or hepatitis C as a result of being treated with contaminated blood products in the 70s and 80s. Now, the public inquiry isn't meant to publish its full report until the autumn, but its chair said the level of trauma and angst caused by the delays means that he needs compensation process to start immediately for a wider range of family members.
It must be right, not only to recognise people's losses through compensation, but also to provide the specialist psychological support not offered over several decades to people infected and affected.
Now, £100,000 interim payments were actually paid to victims or spouses last year. What's been recommended now is for that payment to be extended to those who didn't have a spouse, to either their children or their parents. One person who may be impacted is Jason, who I spoke to earlier. His dad died when he was just 4 with AIDS. He said it's not the money so much as the acknowledgement which really matters.
The biggest thing for me personally is the recognition that they were infected and they died because they were infected, and that it was the fault of those who were in the decision-making chairs at the hands of the state. And that acknowledgement, that recognition is the single biggest thing.
Now, those interim payments are of £100,000. The final bill is likely to be much higher, running to millions of pounds per victim and potentially costing the government billions.
OK, Martin, many thanks.